Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scarred Thumb Podcast.
Damocles, we are entering the Vox blackout
Lately,
area
I've
now.
been playing a lot of the Space Marine 2. This is the Operation mode, which is kind of a multiplayer focused PvE mode. I have to say, the mode itself is fun. It is really disappointing, though, how bad the multiplayer connectivity is. Because it has just been an absolute nightmare sometimes to get a match with two other people. And the AI in this game is pretty bad. Like, if you don't get two other people, they'll throw in an AI. The AI sucks, and it's not very aggressive. And unfortunately, with this game, one of the things that, I suppose in a way it's good. Resource management, ammo management is a big part of this game. Is my sound too loud here? My mic? I can turn this down a little bit. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. But that's an important part of this game. So if the AI is not aggressive, you just find yourself constantly out of ammo because you have to kill everything yourself. So it ends up being a frustrating experience. But this is, I don't know if they expect it to be as popular as it is. It's doing really well. Right now, the three operations they have are pretty good. Pretty good. I'm not. I'll say that I don't think it's like some like the bosses and stuff are the best. Helldivers in terms of gameplay, I think is better. In terms of graphics, though, and presentation, this is definitely pretty awesome. And of course, it's definitely different than Helldivers. If you've played it before, some of the missions can get very samey after a while in Helldivers, and this is the same way. But this is sort of like more laid out, structured, rather than random stuff that you get on Helldivers. Oh, okay. Compared to the game audio. Well, that's fine. That's fine. We're testing it out, but this has been what I've been playing lately. It's still a lot of fun, but they definitely need to do something about the connectivity on the game, and I think it's something they've been working on, but it's not something that's there yet. Yeah, it's just the game audio just tends to be really high. I don't know why, but I want to keep the mic audio a little bit lower. It makes it easier in the post editing as well if it's a little bit softer, because if it peaks, you can't unpeak it. But you can turn the volume up. I love that. I love that kill. Just pick up my leg and slice it off. It looks so good. They did such a good job of Space Marine. There's going to be a little bit of news in here about Space Marine, but now we are going to talk about something else. By the way, good morning, Jack and Deborah. Good to see you. We're going to talk about the invasion of women. So this is kind of started out as something else. This lady here made a post that apparently got a bunch of attention, which is I love Twitter. This is how you get tweets. Just saying men's mental health matters in all capital letters, and just repeat it like 7 times. And then of course this Danisha Carter was very upset about that for some reason. If men's mental health mattered to men, they'd be creating safe spaces for themselves and each other, pursuing therapy and creating community. Instead, they perpetuate the very behavior systems that have handicapped them in the first place, refuse to support or create a community amongst each other, severely damage the women in their lives who try to take care of them. Oh man, there's definitely some history behind this line. You can tell. And attack women online for not doing the work for them in replies to tweets like the one below. How dare they? How dare they attack the women in tweets? Now, of course, this is the sort of myth of men's mental health, where men's mental health is just the same as women's mental health. Like, men, they just need to go to the therapy. They just need to talk it out. They just need to be less toxic. That's why men have That's why men have bad mental health. Some men have bad mental health. You know, they're not in touch with their emotions enough. That's why. And of course, this got picked up by a bunch of people. Critical Drinker, people like you made it literally impossible for men to have spaces, hobbies. I guess a lot of people like latch onto the safe spaces thing, which I mean, safe spaces for men mean something totally different than the usual like safe space. Safe spaces for men is basically, can I say the N word? Can I use slurs or make jokes about certain groups of bankers and Hollywood types without losing my job? That would be a safe space for men, where they can, push the edge of what's socially acceptable, be open about their sort of sexuality without it being a huge issue. So safe spaces from safe spaces, essentially. But social spaces of their own. People like you mandate that women must be included in everything that they do. And now people like you berate them for not having the very things they're prevented from having. People like you are the problem. And then, of course, this, I think, what really tipped it off is men had Star Wars, women invaded. Men had sci-fi, women invaded. Men had video games, women invaded. Men had D&D, women invaded. Men had comics, women invaded. Men had men's only clubs, women invaded. The only thing men have anymore is solitary. Is either solitary or you fuss at us for. Yeah, so he's kind of mad about that. And yes, there's some women that. And then he talks about some other stuff. Yeah, there's some women on these that were in these things from the jump, but they understood men and let them be themselves. They were cool. Men can't have safe spaces because you demand to be let in. So this is another thing that sort of sparked a lot of conversation, where you had all these clubs that were basically very masculine, very few women in it. They weren't that popular at first. You had stuff like D&D, Star Wars. I mean, was a pretty popular movie, but the real like nerds that were really into Star Wars. Hey, good morning, King Trust issues. It wasn't a spot like comic books. Women didn't want to be involved in these things. They're very geeky. They're not very popular. Women are very social conscious, so you don't want to be like. There used to be a stigma attached to nerds, where it's like, ooh, that's gross. Oh, they're losers. You're geeks, and they were spurned by a lot of women. So now they've gotten older, they find it much to their chagrin that women want to be involved in video game spaces. You see these women like OnlyFans models getting involved in video games because hey, here's an audience of guys, potential customers for me to advertise to. Like, oh, that's great. You think you'd love for like cute women that really. I mean, the obviously fantasy for a lot of like geeky guys is the beautiful woman that's really into the hobby that you could actually talk to about the hobby and she'd find it interesting, or that pretty much doesn't exist. Find your skills and hobbies interesting and attractive. Yeah, except you'd think that happened, but it turns out they're just e-thoughts here to advertise to you. So really fun. But Rollo has an article about this, and I wanted to touch on it. The man that has an essay for everything. You talk about this was talking about male space, and then there is he contends that there's two reasons. The goal is to be a woman in a man's space. The cover story is the same trope of the feminine imperative, never being pushed on gender equalism. The practice, however, reveals the push into male space serves two purposes: social control and male oversight. Social control is easier for the two to grasp, even when changing the rules of an all-male game to accommodate the lack of genuine female interest in the male endeavor. It fundamentally alerts the nature of the game. The first woman to be allowed to participate in the game is novelty enough to extend the feminine imperative of social control into the male space. Nowadays, women do it too. And, you've seen this where, like, they're changing the rules. Like, we need more women in the space. We need to change the rules. Like, if you... certain things like in the military with like they're lowering standards. There's certain, we gotta make this game look a little less icky. And there's also, well, I guess there are two things. The Godfather of the manosphere, and he uses Danica Patrick. But, this is, they need more women in it. And then the second is, which I think is more relevant to the conversation, is the second person of the goal is feminine inclusion into male space is really a policing of thought dynamics and attitudes of the men in that space. When we're allowed to access the locker room, the dynamic of the locker room changes. The locker room could take many different shapes: a workplace environment, sports teams, group of all-male coders, the primary male scientific community, the boys club, the group of gamers, nerds at the local game store, even strip club in the sanctuary you think is a man cave. The context is one woman inserting themselves in the male space in order to enforce the dictates of the feminine social primacy. And this, enforce is a harsh word, but a lot of times it's like, women want to be a part of it because, either they're interested in it, it gets them attention, a guy that they're interested in is in the group, so they want to get in there. And it's not like, a lot of times men will opt into, like, they want the woman there, and they want to either get the woman's approval, or they just men naturally have a sort of protective instinct when it comes to women. When the influences of the feminine primacy is introduced to the social setting made up by mainly men and male interests, the dynamic and purpose of the group changes. The purpose becomes less about the endeavor itself and more about adherence to the feminine inclusionary aspect of the endeavor. And I've seen this happening with like I used to play Splatoon a lot, and there was this I still remember this, a Twitter hashtag. It was something like W's over morals, and they were complaining that a team picked up a guy that was sort of like canceled because he said the N-word in some Discord tweets, and a lot of the screenshots were going around. They actually had ironically, one of the sort of best black people in the entire game was on the same team as the guy that had, was like racist, quote unquote, which was the whole irony of the thing was crazy. But this idea, like, oh, W, how dare you choose to have this guy on your team in order to win? You should have got him off the team. Who cares if you win or lose? It's really about being a good person. And that's what's happening in these gaming spaces right now. It's not about, hey, who's the best guy? I want on my team. I want to win. This idea that, being a good person is more important to the community than being good at the game. When the actual community revolves around the game, that should be the talent and skill at the game should be. And I'm not saying, you should be irredeemable, but I mean, what does the community value the most other than skill in the game? But that's what the game's about. That's what the competition's about, to find who is the best. It's very strange, but this is what happens when a community becomes too feminine. And the other thing I wanted to, there's another paragraph in here. One of the most threatening aspects of conventional masculinity for the feminine parent is the cooperative potential of male bonding. When only men compromise an in-group, team building, common purpose, and masculine primary environment tend to define the group. I would argue that the modern insertion of female influence in all male spaces is a coordinated effort to limit this bonding and unity in favor of feminine primary correctness. And this was, let me play this. Here's a thing from GDC. I've shown this before, but let's play this.
The online gaming provides incredibly important opportunities for boys and young men to connect, but
notice that, really great for boys and people to connect, but here's the but.
We need to make it so, as you said, they can feel like they're being their true selves online and not having to reinforce toxic prejudices and toxic masculinity.
See, that the survey she did found like boys gaming, boys and men, and gaming is a great way for people to connect, build friendships, just like men tend to bond while doing stuff. It's not like they just meet up and, hey, let's socialize and talk about our day. They want to do something. It's just way more natural for to want to kill a bunch of aliens, go here, hey, let's get together and shoot shit in a video game. That's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun than this. But let me continue this.
Yeah, your study brought up that they mentioned true self came up a lot. I wonder how much true self is. This is me without rules. Not is this who I really am, or is this who I am when the boys all want to be bad and I want to be bad together?
Boys, no.
Does it just feed that kind of nature, and do the males just kind of assume that's their true self because this is what I am without rules, and when it thinks of me,
I know what you're saying. This is just me.
Is this what I am without rules? I love it. Oh, we can be our true selves, as in. What they really mean is hey, yeah, I can have fun without worrying about the constant social pressure that women and dudes like this impose on me. I can just make jokes that I want to make, talk the way I want to talk.
This is just me speculating, but you do have to wonder: can they be their true selves when there's so much emphasis on being hypermasculine
not hypermasculine
and embracing violence?
Violence, oh no.
Is some of it posturing, especially with young boys?
Violence, never a part of masculinity, by the way. Yep, totally not. Oh, by the way, who's fighting in Russia and Ukraine right now? Is it a bunch of women? Oh wait, no, they're in brothels. They're in Germany's brothels right now, being prostitutes. But yeah, while men fight and die.
Are they really feeling that, or do they have to emphasize hypermasculinity in order to feel like they belong?
Yeah, it's definitely a problem. And I mean, like you said, with the bullying being an issue and all the.
Yep, guys say, I could be my true self online, and then you always have these people. Which, I mean, this guy's a stand-in for women as well. He's the sort of feminine male that enforces femininity as well. So it's, true self. We could be our true. Well, is that really your true self? I mean, isn't your true self just a more feminine guy? You're just, you've been sort of brainwashed. You're under pressure to be super masculine by other men. That's not your real true self. Your real true self is to be more like a woman. And this is from the GDC talk on masculinity, where you have two female speakers. It's very important to have representation, unless we're talking about a masculinity. Then you get zero representation. It's women telling you how to be a proper man. And this is what the invasion of the sort of male space looks like when a medium that was almost 100% built by men basically gets women sort of come in. They want to be included. You have this lady here.
It really takes studios to hold values around wanting to break free of these tropes, right? It really does need to come from the business perspective, studio leadership wanting to really take a stance and innovate on these types of representations. And part of that as well is, something I'll get to again more, is who is in positions of decision making around what goes into a game, right? Who is being represented? Because as we know, often it is, the games industry is overwhelmingly represented in leadership positions by cis white men and cis white straight men.
No,
so we need to disrupt that.
We need to disrupt that openly. We need to too many cis white guys. We need to get rid of that. We need to disrupt it. We need less cis white men. We need to get rid of cis white men in the gaming industry. But less is better. And this is amazing that this sort of subtle implication that the problems, and it's the same thing with all this liberalism and progressivism, that the problems of society is related to the fact that there are just too many white men, straight white men in leadership. And if we got rid of them, If there was less, it'd be okay. That's totally not racist or sexist at all. And this is the other part. We're like, we need more women. Once a certain amount of women get into the space, they want more women in the space. It makes them feel more comfortable. They get to enforce these sort of rules with more power. And this is the other sort of myth that kind of comes up. You know, you have CD Projekt Red, which has a scholarship program, but if you're a man, do not apply. This is Girls in Gaming, a scholarship program aimed exclusively at women, primarily from smaller towns who dream of working in video game development. So yeah, if you want to get into the game industry, it's pretty easy if you're a woman. And then of course you have the sort of like, there's also the woman like, hey, it's not me. Not all women are like that type of stuff. I agree that men still tell the batters. That being said, both are wrong. Women have always loved Star Wars, sci-fi, video games, etc. Not as many as men, but they did. How about they were always for everyone until recently? This is like, oh yeah, we were always there. And of course, there always were women involved in these spaces. They're very few, and most women, like I said, found them repulsive. I think a lot of them still do. Like, oh, you play video games is pretty common in dating apps where they'll be like, oh yeah, if you play video games, don't bother. I need a real man. That sort of indication that video games are unmasculine, because obviously a lot of women don't like the fact that men would rather spend time playing video games than be with them. They wasted those spots. They didn't even want the job. Hey, good morning, X-Runner. Good morning, JBB. Of course, you have Nina Infinity, which, by the way, like Critical Drinker will say, like, we need male spaces, but they'll have on people like, she works for Real Clownfish TV. They'll have on Nina Infinity. Like, all these geeks and gamers, sort of like Friday Night Tights people, always have women on their panels. There is no, like, sort of like male space that they're making. Despite being quite popular. Exactly this. I've always loved sci-fi, video games, Star Wars. They've always thought it was for everyone. That's been the issue, hasn't it? That I don't even know what she's trying to turn this into. What is it? Is it the Jews here? I want to keep saying that it wasn't. I would add that I think it's psychopathy is a real issue. Thank you, Anita. It's psychopathy. That's the problem. Every group has been infiltrated, men and women. Yeah, it's just everybody's like got problems. Totally. Like this isn't it. This isn't it. The fact is that these spaces were masculine. But when I formed my video game club in 2001 in college, there was maybe one woman, maybe two. And they rarely showed up, or like, you know, they specifically hang out in certain things, but there was barely any. And like when it's that small, it's basically a male space. Like we break up into rooms, play in different spaces. I mean, you'd essentially be playing with other guys like 99% of the time. And it was fun. But the problem is when you have like a critical mass, you get some sort of like critical mass, it becomes very, very easy for them to sort of enforce or like apply social pressure. Where you have like, especially when you add this into the fact that there's plenty of men that want the approval of these women, and they'll help them enforce those rules. So you have like this is Alexander, aka Date Psych, responded to this as well. I cannot take women invading male spaces seriously when they go to example as women making my cartoonish girls less bangable, and your hobby is the equivalent of junk food. Alex from Date Psych is a very jealous and bitter person. He does shitty social science, which usually involves Twitter polls and that kind of stuff. Social science in general is pretty shitty, where it's like, how do I prove this? I know. I'll take a Twitter poll of my followers, and this will show me what reality is. He's deeply bitter at this sort of like red pill approach, where it's like guys swapping notes, like, hey, did this work? Yeah, it worked for me. Like, oh, try this. It worked for me. Oh, yeah, that worked. Like, oh, this didn't work. And then they just sort of keep like iterating on it until, you know, it gets better and better and better. That's not, you know, super scientific, even though it actually works. And he's bitter at the success a lot of these guys have had. So and of course, he's just very feminine in general. So he's going to take the tact that, oh man, you're making porn brain gooner, you're making my cartoon less bangable. By the way, video games suck anyway. They're just junk food. Don't tell me. And then he makes this point that the Elks Club and Boy Scouts have been going down. These sort of all male spaces have been declining. And he's just saying, like, yeah, the reason why is because men just don't want to be in these spaces. It has nothing to do. Notice how it sort of like declined in the 60s when you had like when was the Civil Rights Act passed? Civil Rights Act of, let's see, 1964. So kind of like right here is when it started to decline. And this is the thing that no one really mentions, especially in America, if you're not American. The Civil Rights Act basically destroyed freedom of association for straight white men. So if you actually had a club, like you have to let women in, or you have to sort of be concerned with it. It kind of fell out of fashion because right when civil rights was a big thing and the sort of push for feminism, where I think you have to kind of, this is my own speculation here. I don't think there's really anything to prove it. Of course, comparing playing video games to eating McDonald's, which is great. But it really became unpopular to do so. It kind of like out of social favor to be part of an all-male club. Yep, date psych. He's appearing on the Scartham podcast, unfortunately. But this is a typical like argument, like, oh yeah, video games kind of suck. It's like pseudo masculinity. We're like, oh, look how tough I am. Huh. This is like the same stuff you'd find from like some dumb masculinity account. Yeah, don't waste your time on video. Like, Andrew, don't waste your time on video games, bro. Video games are dumb. Yeah, you should be working out. You should be protecting women, giving your money to women and being a better ally. Yeah, dude. Video games, what a waste. It's like the video game issue is like if eating McDonald's was 80% of male activity, and then suddenly women changed the chicken nuggets to fried cheese sticks, and everyone acted like it was ruining some sort of valuable male cultural heritage. Ah, that's lovely. What a loser. Of course, Archwinger coming, friend of the show. Women don't invade male spaces. Women invade the world. It's not that 6 nerdy guys can't start their own video game club. It's that video game companies are now producing content and regulating online play based on what women want. Video games are just one example. And this is 100% true. You've seen it before where they're removing proximity chat because women complain. They're changing the rules because women complain that, that people are being mean to them. People are saying inappropriate stuff to them. And overall, there's been this sort of like, it's gone from like servers. If you remember the day, Team Fortress 2 and, I guess a lot of Valve games, Counter-Strike, a lot of times when you played competitive games online, it'd just be server-based. There'd be no gigantic solo queue. There'd be like no esport, ranked queue type of thing where you just hit the button and you go into the match, which is easy, especially for like a casual player. You just want to play, boom, you hit the button and it's good to go. You don't have to like find a server and like get into a server. There's no like lists of servers, and I think that turns off a lot of casual people. So there is that reason for it, but there is like no space anymore. The great thing about servers is you could like find a server full of guys that had the game mode you want, maybe has a group of guys that you enjoy hanging out with, or whatever mix you want, and it just has that general feel that you want. Like if they're just having fun or that people are playing seriously. That went away in video games. Now it's very rare. I know BattleBit had like its own servers, but I think even in those, I think the game itself is trying to sort of take a stance to stop that. And I think there also might be the idea that especially in Europe, I think there's a lot of laws that are coming out where they're trying to hold companies accountable for what's said in the video game. That is, again, sort of making a lot of companies take these stances, or like afraid of just saying like, hey, form your own servers, say whatever you want, just taking a hands-off approach. This isn't happening anymore. Video games become so big that they can't really hide, or they don't go unnoticed by government regulators, which again are very feminine. But let's move on from here. This is just some examples. Good old Anita Sarkeesian is coming back, one of the sort of women that definitely invaded and then decided, like, oh, this stuff is bad. Oh, this stuff is gross. I also clipped this. Where was it? This.
I want to ask from the development side too. How does this affect developers who are like
how does it affect
creating these kind of like sexualized versions of women, or like these like nasty stereotypes and things like that? Because I feel that must have an effect on like a development team who spends months and years like crafting like something frankly gross.
Oh. I love the laugh. Something gross. Please like me. I said it was gross. I said these sexualized women are gross. Please touch me. Please touch me. Did you see the way I said the right thing, mommy? Please. Frankly, something gross. Of course, this person deleted their tweet. It was the typical "oh, real women" tweet compared to these ugly stuff, and then people immediately like, hey, these companies can make women that are based off real women, quote unquote, and still make them look good. And then this person also showing that it is possible to make to use models and make them attractive. You could use facial recognition software 15 years ago, and they're still looking good. It's just really about the studio. It's not about technology or, well, it might be skill, but I think it's mostly the direction where these people are intentionally like KVS or any sort of example where they have these women, where they make them uglier. I always pronounce it alloy, but apparently it's pronounced Aloy. I've learned that. Aloy, good old fat face. Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. They're remastering this, by the way. Aloy. They're remastering a 7-year-old game. Well, apparently. This is the let's get fat face over here. Whoa, they based this on a real woman. Where is the Aloy actress? Hold on, Aloy actress. Let's get her. Aloy, Zero Dawn. Who'd they base this on? Actress. Is this her? Hannah. She's Dutch. Oh, Jack, she's Dutch. She's one of your peoples. Look what they did. Aloy. She's kind of cute. Got that girl next door vibe here. Not bad. Oh, totally the same. It's practically the same. Look at this. Oh, Sony. I find it Dutch. Oh, she's a Dutch 5. Dang. Are Dutch women all that hot? I like it. 100% racism towards the Dutch. Unacceptable, Sony. This was one of the things on the Zenless Zone Zero.
Glad that's over with.
Promotional. Oh, you're a bunch of fears for ladies in the shower.
Sir, there's enough of us in here as it is. And you're wearing shoes again. What's the big deal? We're all ladies.
Oh no, so you can see silhouettes. Obviously, this is how the Chinese gacha games advertise their game. We'll see some different. We'll see the Western equivalent of how they advertise their game soon enough with Veilguard here. But this, of course, women said I should just quit this game. Reminder: these two are They're young looking, and that's the issue. So fan service not allowed. And this is the usual like women in games that what they tend to do. You got fan service? Well, that's gross. Very gross. So now
Let me borrow that hair wash of yours.
So yeah, women in the shower, totally gross. How dare they? And this was the last thing on this topic. This is the sort of other thing that unfortunately has happened to, I think this guy nailed it, but it's happened because of this sort of influence, especially with women, but the sort of like sensitivity shit that they keep pushing.
Truth is, you guys, Miles never had much swagger. He's actually quite bland. And to be fair, it's not just him. It's his mates, it's his girl, it's most of the people he interacts with, and it is Peter's circle too. In terms of personality, they're all really polite. Polite in a strangely
really
formal
polite.
Way. I don't quite know how to put it. They talk like their employers are listening. Because it's so common and because...
This was also a game that like Sweet Baby Incorporated worked on. So I wonder, like, if you hire people to do sensitivity readings, is this what you get?
So often the most notable
with your dialogue.
It comes to render dialogue dry and predictable. Many of the words written for Genki could be spoken by Mary Jane or Peter.
When you have stuff like saying crazy is ableist.
The humor's got the same agonizingly safe job application quality, the affectation of social awkwardness despite not actually being socially awkward. You know the drill, their default on the character creation screen, sourceless. According to some truly remarkable takes I've seen online, the reason Peter isn't always as funny in this game as he used to be is because of depression.
Because of depression. But this guy nails it. Like, a lot of dialogue in these games is just bland. And this is what happens when you worry too much about the sensitivity of like 50 different groups. You get, again, very polite dialogue, very bland dialogue. If you hire a consulting company to make sure your work is adequately sensitive, non-offensive, then you may end up with dialogue that is just, boring. And you see this a lot in Western entertainment, unfortunately, where they just like, it just feels, it just doesn't have that spice, a certain, polarity to it that makes things interesting. That is what and this is I guess sort of wrap it up, like this is what sort of like the invasion of women really is, where you can't have sort of like spicy dialogue. You can't have to worry about where they sort of enforce this correctness, as Rolo says. They enforce this sort of correctness, and then you get stuff. You can't have shower scenes with teenage girls. You can't have hot women. Now this is, you can't have this sexualization of women. These gross models. This is perpetuating harmful tropes for women. You can't have that. As more and more that, and apparently even Animal Crossing, and why acknowledging Japan's history of colonial rule is important to the discussion. They just insert insanity, but this is capital for them. Like this attention that you get. Like, I'm more correct than everyone else. This progressivism. Like, we need to worry about the sort of modernizing historically problematic content. Just a race to see, who can outdo each other in terms of correctness. And, men find themselves like, why would I even want to play this shit? I want something fun. I want something like Space Marine 2, which doesn't impose morals on gamers. So this was a story from, apparently a guy made a quote on a Asmongold video that used the name of this Cyber Interactive CEO, Matthew Karch, revealed he's not a fan of developers creating games that are overblown attempts at messaging. So this was a comment on a video from Asmongold. He wrote, "Hey man, CEO of Saber here." Apparently, this has not been confirmed by him, which, I mean, is smart that he actually said this, that was actually him. So these sort of like being very obtuse about this. I love your videos. When we signed the deal to make Space Marine 2, all I wanted was a throwback game. We had the chance change to work. I assume this is chance, not change, to work on something which by its nature was old school. I can't even comprehend how many of the current games that we play these days, they're too complex and too much of an investment, he added. Next, he shared that he was inspired by Halo. We worked on Halo back in the day. The game could be distilled down to the simplest of shooting loops, but it was entirely addicting. That is what we wanted to recapture. Karch then shared his hope that Space Marine 2 and Black Wukong are the start of a revival in the video game industry to get back to fun and immersion. I hope the games like Space Marine 2 and Wukong are the start of a reversion to a time when games were simply about fun and immersion. Finally, he lamented the state of the industry during his brief times as chief operating officer at Embracer Group. I spent some time as the chief officer at Embracer, and I saw games that made me want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals on gamers. We just want to do some glory kills and get the heart rate up a little. For me, that's what games should be about, he concluded. And this sort of line here made me want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals. Uh-oh. All I can think is Laura. I saw the video of the new Netflix thing for Laura Croft, but it looks dumb in my opinion. Like they went like super actiony on it. I don't know. I never really played Tomb Raider, so I don't personally care that much about the IP. But she looks very masculine, and both in look and in actions. There's nothing, no sort of sex appeal was shown off, which, was the... Nah, she's not black, but, like, she was, like, super sexy, like, the sort of, like, video game bombshell, like, well, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, super hot, and now they've, like, totally gone away from that angle. They've really tried to downplay her sex appeal as much as possible. And I don't know. To me, I don't know what Tomb Raider is actually supposed to be, but like I always liked the idea of like the sort of like Indiana Jones adventure, like tomb exploring type of thing. They just made like an overblown action movie where it's like there's like a hidden thing, and this could just be the advertisement where they have to show off all the action scenes at once. But it just doesn't look like an adventure. It almost looks like a shonen type of thing where it's just about fighting. But that could be me. Like I said, not really super invested in the whole Tomb Raider stuff, so I didn't even bother including it. It is a shame that it's sort of been tainted by the fact that we can't have a sexualized woman at all. Any sort of attractiveness is the equivalent of, carrying on, negative tropes. And then one of the things about Netflix making like anime style stuff is I don't like their influence on anime right now. They can make some cool stuff, but a lot of it starts to turning into garbage. You can definitely see that influence there. And they talk about the reviews, but this was from a lot of people didn't react too well to the sort of Warhammer, this news. Again, they can't confirm. They won't confirm whether it's CEO, and that's smart of him because I'm sure people would pressure him to apologize for saying that. So even this idea, like, in many ways, it's fairly anodyne to say, we just want to do some glory kills, get the heart rate up. That's what the game should be about. I miss the old days of my youth, but the specificity of imposing morals on gamers was immediately picked up as ammunition in the never-ending online culture wars. Hundreds of replies to the comments poured on, heralding Karch as the gaming hero we've all been waiting for, bemoaning the supposed rise of politics in gaming. Yep, it's supposed. And then, oh no, they're celebrating the performance of Dustborn and Concord. That games have become too woke. Yep, it's supposed. There's not, like I said, I showed the, I already played the clips. So like there's too many white men in leadership. They're making gross sexualized tropes. Yep, there is too much politics. Oh, by the way, would you like your character to have Verlitigo? What is it? Verlitigo? Whatever. Hey, do you want top surgery scars on your character creator? We got you covered. That's coming up here. We'll be talking about Veilguard later. But yeah, it's just supposedly politics. And then there's also a lot of people talking about, oh, the old days of my youth. Yeah, the old days. Oh, they never actually existed. The good times were never there, guys. Today is just video games are just as fun as they were in the past. Believe me. We've got, and then IGN, Space Marine 2 developer Saber Interactive won't say whether or not a controversial YouTube comment is from its shows. Oh, the comment's controversial. Interesting. Of course, clickbait title for the clickbait article. Fun and immersion is not controversial. But why would that controversial? Why would it be controversial to say that not imposing morals on gamers is a good thing? Because they 100% these progressives 100% believe that enforcing morals is a good thing. That video games should be pushing moral values. I mean, you saw this. I already showed, this clip here, that their true selves.
Homophobia.
Important. The online gaming provides incredibly important opportunities for boys and young men to connect, but we need to make it so, as you said, they can feel like they're being their true selves online and not having to reinforce toxic prejudices and toxic masculinity. Toxic
prejudice and toxic masculinity. This is JDC. This is the Game Developers Conference. This is 100% approved and liked by game developers. They want this in games. They want to make sure that toxic masculinity is removed from games. This is what they want out of video games. So this idea that, yeah, there used to be a time when this wasn't a thing. The good times, when it was just Halo, guys having fun. I remember the college where we just had the projector set up with Halo, doing the split screen competitions. It was fun. It was just about shooting guys. We didn't have Galo here. Hold on a second. Let me bring this up. Wait, hold on. It was ends with Gaylord. Let's see. Let me put in Galo and see if this gets. Oh, Galo's that's a real thing. Let's see. Pride Skin Master Halo. Yeah. Here we go. This didn't used to be in Halo, by the way. This is the good days we're talking about here. The time before this became something. Happy Pride Month. Oh, what happened when women invade games? This happens. This, back in 2001, would be unthinkable. Your thing would be dropped instantly if it had this shit in it. Instantly. Nobody wanted to play. No one wanted to be anywhere until like 20 feet of gay Master Chief. But this is what happens when it stops becoming a male space. You have shit like this crop up. But, Asmongold apparently made an article where he says, is a reminder of what we lost. Space Marine is a reminder of what we lost. Astrobot is a reminder of what we lost. Stellar Blade is a reminder of what we lost, etc., etc., etc. So many games are coming out reminding us of what we lost. It almost feels like we never lost anything to begin with. Oh, they're very smart. And, of course, you have Mighty Keith. If he agrees with you, you're wrong. He is just that bad when it comes to take. These weirdos are just talking. They're weirdos. I think a lot of YouTuber streamers are able to have naive takes. I'm very smart, guys. I make documentaries. Right? Because they were just children speaking to other children, so nobody cared. Now that they're older, the takes sound way dumber, and the irritated backlash from their peers adults is more pronounced. No, you just became I don't have a TOS friendly adjective for this gentleman. But yeah, you became way lamer, and you decided to, rather than be a man or just enjoy yourself, have fun, you decided to push garbage like this. You decided to trade in fun for social approval and screw everyone else. But yes, this is what happened. You guys got older. You became a lot of these YouTubers became whipped. They realized that there's a ton of money to be made by towing the line and making sure you're in YouTube's good graces. They caved to social pressure, and now they refuse to see that the reality is, yes, something like Astrobot is just a regular platformer. Hey, video games are fun. Stellar Blade, hey, here's a sexy character. That's a woman that's unabashedly sexy. Oh my God, how dare they? Space Marine 2, a game that's just fun. Again, hyper masculine. Just tons of like blood and violence. All these men are just men. They're not talking about their feelings, and when they do, they're like very direct and very curt, very stoic about it. It's awesome. It's awesome. This is what we lost. There isn't Halo anymore. This is Halo now. This is Halo today. 2001's gone. The days when we would just play split screen with a bunch of other college guys, just having fun, cussing at each other, calling each other every insult under the sun. Constant slurs. Just constant slurs, having a blast. That is gone now. You cannot do that. You will be banned instantly if you do that in a Halo lobby. So yeah, we did lose. There's an I'm so smart, this never really happened, guys. Games are just as good as they were. Really? Yes, games were just as good as they were. In fact, let's go into this article here. Well, let me show you how good games here's how good games are.
She, her, and they, them, and then your gender is
Whoa.
man, woman, non-binary.
Non-binary.
Love the inclusivity. Top
surgery scars. Yes. Finally. Whoa, never mind. Forget old games. New games are awesome, guys.
For all of our trans and non-binary.
Finally.
I absolutely was blown away by this. It's beautiful to see the inclusion in the game and to see yourself represented. But he, him, she, her, and they.
Guys, you got vitiligo on your character now. Damn. Video games are so good nowadays. Awesome. So this is Veilguard's customers. This is what they wanted to show off to the world. We got this fat pig here with short haircut, the dyke haircut here. Wow, top surgery scars. Gushing about top surgery scars. Of course, this is Dragon Age director for Veilguard. As a queer trans woman, she says, I have perspective on these games that not everyone has. Dragon has long been a place where LGBTQ whatever folk can see themselves represented respectfully. It's inherently very queer. Absolutely. That's what I need my game to be. Marginalized communities have representation that we need to feel proud and powerful in how we are depicted. A younger version of myself to see someone in game like your games. Of course, if you want to see yourself and you're, a relatively attractive woman with like a big ass or chest, no, you're not going to be able to see yourself. This is Haley here. Haley Era here, just pointing out that the sort of chest slider. This is your maximum butt size in Dragon Age Veilguard here. And this is your maximum chest size. So if you're a woman that if you want a fat ass and a big tits, well, fuck you. But you can have top surgery scars. I mean, that's a consolation, right? You can't have that. You can't have a big ass or tits, but you can be a trans person. Never mind, guys. We got this loser, Cerebrus XT, Warhammer, cancer in the Warhammer community, showing, I don't really understand the whiners saying that you can't do a feminine carry in Dragon Age Veilguard. When I see screens like this, The picture of femininity here. A fat brown woman. It does look like a typical woman I'd see in Walmart. Pudgy, middle-aged Hispanic woman with elf ears. I mean, they don't have the elf ears, but this is what they look like, kind of. Well, they're fatter. Let's be honest. Yes, there is a societal hatred of tits because it's sexualizing. You can't have sexualized women in fiction. That's perpetuating harmful stereotypes. So we need this. IGN, the character creator
in Dragon Age the Veilguard
yes,
is incredible.
It's
there
incredible.
There are so many options and sliders, from the usuals like hair color and style, eye
yes.
shape, noses, all the way down to things like bulge size. Vitiligo, we got that.
Oh, vitiligo. Yes. Thank God we got vitiligo. I need to make my character. How many people have vitiligo? But this is another, like, the fact that they always include this stuff with like the proper character creators is this is why I play only white people. How's it going, Newt? Good to see you. They have to include this because, one, it affects mostly black people, but older people. But it's just naturally repulsive when you see this. You're like, eh. I mean, not that that's any reason to treat people poorly that have vitiligo, but the fact they love stuff like this. Same thing with trans people. It's naturally repulsive when you see a trans woman because it's not a woman, but it's like pretending to be a woman. So you have like this dissonance there that's just naturally repulsive. Same thing with vitiligo. It's kind of resembles like leprosy. I'm sure there's a natural biological response to seeing this, but they have to include it because you have to have stuff like this. This is what they love. They love stuff like that's naturally kind of ugly to include in your game. Like this shows that you're better. You're better than the rest if you find this great. Find this to be a good thing.
We got that. Heterochrome.
And there's just something about this sort of like disabilities and like showing them off, like raising them up to something that's, that's good. It's good that you can have a character with a disability. It's great. We need to champion disabilities because traditional beauty there's something bad about it. There's something, predatory or wrong about it. There's something gross about natural sexuality.
Not feeling particularly creative, or you just want to get started as soon as possible with a good-looking character, there are a bunch of presets to choose from as well. As a bonus, the character creator also features various lighting conditions to simulate in-game environments, so rest assured you'll have full control here to make the character of your dreams. Like I did. The character
yes. It looks hideous. Absolutely hideous. Who knows how Dragon Age is going to do. It's got a lot of history, but this is what they want to show off to you. This is what they want to, they want to advertise it. Hey guys, you can have vitiligo in your game. That's their hook. One of their hooks is, yes, you can have vitiligo. We've included all the options, unless you want to make a big tittied character. Then screw you, you sexist. How dare you want a sexualized female? You have to stick to vitiligo. Let's move on from a lot of social justice crap. We're going to talk about video games. This Pokemon company wins a $15 million copyright license against the game that copied Pokemon characters. So this isn't related to Palworld, but it's coming up. Won around $15 million in a copyright lawsuit against a Chinese company that appeared to blatantly use Pokemon characters in its game. Announced its success in the lawsuit over Pocket Monster reissued. And yeah, there are some things that some of these Chinese phone games just straight up copy Pokemon. It just is not even close. I don't know if they include any pictures, but they won a bunch of money. There are multiple examples of fan projects issued takedown notices. They mentioned Pokemon Uranium, that kind of stuff. But they're big off the win. They announced that they are finally suing Palworld. So Nintendo announcing filing lawsuit for infringement of patent rights against Pocket Pair Incorporated, which makes Palworld. Nintendo company, bunch of blah, 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 together with the Pokemon company, filed a patent infringement lawsuit at the Tokyo court against Pocket Pair. On September 18th, 2024, the lawsuit seeks an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that Palworld, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. Nintendo will continue to take necessary action against infringement of its intellectual property rights, including the Nintendo brand itself, to protect intellectual properties that has worked hard to establish over the years. So, one thing that's been pointed out that again and again, this is a patent lawsuit, which is apparently different than a copyright lawsuit. So, a copyright's like, it doesn't look similar. Like, you know, this game being Pokemon with guns, there wasn't enough to sue there that they're like kind of like Pokemon. But what Nintendo has, and then Palworld responds, what Nintendo has is several patents on mechanics that it's going to try to sue over. So regarding the lawsuit, yesterday a lawsuit was filed, this is Palworld responding, against our company for patent infringement. We have received a notice of this lawsuit and will begin to the appropriate legal proceedings and investigations into the claims of patent infringement. At the moment, we are unaware of the specific patents we are accused of infringing upon. We have not been notified of such details. Pocket Pair is a small indie game company based in Tokyo. Our goal as a company has been to create fun games. We continue to pursue this goal because we know that our games will bring joy to millions of gamers around the world. Palworld was a surprise success this year, both for gamers and for us. We are blown away by the amazing response to the game and have been working hard to make it better for our fans. We will continue to improve Palworld and strive to create a game that our fans can be proud of. And this truly unfortunate that we were forced to allocate significant time to matters unrelated to game development due to this lawsuit. However, we will do our utmost for our fans to ensure that the indie game developers are not hindered or discouraged from pursuing their creative ideas. We apologize to our fans and supporters for any worry or discomfort that this has caused. As always, thank you for your continued support of Palworld and Pocket Pair. They're responding to this. So what is this lawsuit about? And no one's 100% sure right now because they don't know exactly what patents Nintendo is saying that they infringed upon. But this is a article from Automatan. This is by Amber V. So what is the patent? And they talked to a lawyer. Apparently they kind of split up some of their patents recently, specifically to sue Palworld over. So this actually has a graph right here. This is one of the patents that Pokemon own. This patent appears to, in essence, be about the mechanic of catching Pokemon. It describes in extremely specific terms the following process: aiming a capture item, Pokeball, at a character placed on the field, Pokemon, releasing the capture item in a direction determined by the player input, judgment of whether capturing is successful or not upon contact between the capture item and Pokemon, changing of the Pokemon's status to owned by the player when capturing is successful. In addition, the patent also covers mechanics of having capture probability displayed to the player regardless of whether it uses colors, graphics, or numbers. So this sounds very vague, but when you look at this drawing, I got to be honest, Palworld is very similar to this as far as this capture mechanic, and this is very similar to Arceus, and the way Palworld does it is quite similar. So I do not know if this is if they have something here. They very well might. Apparently, Nintendo's never lost a lawsuit that it initiated. So Palworld, so as he's saying, they call this a patent, a killer patent. It seems to be very hard to avoid if you want to make a Pokemon-like game, and it's easy to infringe if you're not careful. So this is actually pretty interesting that you can patent mechanics, and it's also kind of scary, the fact that you have to worry about this stuff if you just want to make a game. Like, oh, if I exclude something similar, am I going to get sued? If I have the capture probability displayed, am I going to get sued by Nintendo? and they, sue you over some very similar stuff, it does seem like it's kind of hindering creativity. But, like I said, this kind of thing is what they have in game is very similar. I'll admit. This looks a lot like Arceus when it comes to capturing Pokemon. So, I don't know. They might be in trouble but we don't even know if this is the patent they're suing for. But it kind of makes sense if it is. So who knew? Excuse me. Who knew that you could capture, that you could patent mechanics? Very interesting. And apparently, the West is taking Palworld's side, Pocket Pair's side. I think because most Americans are pretty, how should I say this? America's very lawsuit heavy. We sue over a lot of stuff. There's a lot of frivolous lawsuits in America. In Japan, it's not as big of an issue, so they tend to take it more seriously. Anecdotally speaking, most Japanese look down on things like piracy, torrenting emulators, ROMs, and anything resembling copyright infringement. The fact that comes from the heavy rules-based nature of Japanese society. So this reaction isn't surprising at all. So he's saying Western Twitter is very supportive of Palworld, wishing Palworld survive against the lawsuit. Japanese Twitter are humiliating Palworld, defending Nintendo like a partisan to a political party. I'm surprised it's black and white to this extent. And also, Japan is very proud of Nintendo and Pokemon. It's it's a very important part of their culture. A really kind of shining star of Japanese culture, which Nintendo is pretty great. I'm a big fan of Nintendo myself, but there's also some guys. Concord is back. I can't stop talking about Concord, but this was just too much. This is too much not to include.
I want to talk about Concord, and I verified who this person was and went through all of that and talked to this person extensively, for a long time. Ooh. And got some, I think, interesting information that I can share about Concord. I think people will be interested about it. The reason that I wanted to talk about it is because some of the assumptions that I had made about the game were dead wrong as far as how much it cost and how much Sony really lost on it. So the big thing that you really need to know here about this is that Concord cost about $400 million to make.
$400 million. This is what this guy is claiming. And it almost seems unbelievable. But $400 million. That sounds insane. But apparently they had already put $200 million into developing the game before Sony bought it. And then Sony put another $2 million into the game afterwards to get it ready to release. But $400 million. If this is true, it is absolutely insane. Insane. And then he's saying, internally referred to as the future of PlayStation with Star Wars-like potential and a dev culture of toxic positivity that halted any negative feedback. How could you look at those characters and think for a second that this had Star Wars-like potential? $400 million. This is $400 million franchise. It sounds insane. Absolutely insane. This idea that it's $400 million. If this is true, it's the biggest flop in the history of gaming. And honestly, it kind of makes me think that they may actually try to release Concord. If they have this much money into it, the fact that they may really be trying to restructure it rather than just throwing it down the drain and just taking a tax write-off, I don't know. They're so far deep in it, maybe they'll actually try to do something with it to salvage it. Though I don't know how you salvage it, to be honest. And then I like this reply. There's no way Concord costs over $400 million. Bro, the credits are over an hour long. I guess this is a real thing, but apparently it's scrolling really slowly, but it's an hour-long credits where they're pointing out like they have stuff like makeup artists and all this stuff. It was in development for 8 years, which is true. So what a debacle. What a debacle. The director is stepping down as the game's return remains in limbo. Of course, at this point, how do you not step down when you've delivered the biggest flop in the world? Guess you kind of do. Apparently he's not fired. He's just stepping down into a supporting role. So maybe that's, to avoid paying severance. I don't know how, the entire team doesn't get fired. Maybe they still want to get this game, but apparently Sony's head was, really gung-ho on it. And who knows, maybe they still in denial about how bad this game is. I mean, the gameplay itself doesn't look terrible, but the overall direction and the look of the game is just a disaster. $400 million. That's I don't believe it myself. I want to believe it. I want to believe that this is the biggest failure in the history of gaming. And even I have a hard time being $400 million for real? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. There are big layoffs at Microsoft laid off 650 staff from their gaming division. So they're not doing well either. Sony, hemorrhaging money. Xbox, gaming, not doing well. I'm almost becoming a little bit paranoid. Is gaming heading for a crash? Is gaming in trouble right now? What they're putting out? Who knows? But this was an interesting thing that Karam brought up. They've got $6.18 billion market cap, but they only have 6,500 employees. And then, 6,000 has 6,074 employees. Asia is only 24, basically 2,500. Of course, look at the split, 80-20 male to female. Meanwhile, in Nintendo America, it's 60, 36, 63, 65, 35. Europe, it's 60, 40. And then in Australia, it's more women than men. What the heck? So in Asia, where they really get things done, you have the Pareto principle split of 80% male, 20% female. Very interesting. Very interesting. Of course, I think they do use a lot of temp work, which kind of keeps their numbers down. But everybody does that. But interesting, Nintendo's got that kind of a split. Specifically interesting, the 80-20 male to female split. Ideal, I think, for not ideal. It'd be 100% male, but never mind. So this was another thing that came up on my thing that I wanted to talk about. So Nintendo first, this course, they're talking about Nintendo $700 PS5 Pro, 600 people laid off. Typical, console war stuff. Nintendo just showing off. Echoes of wisdom, looking lovely. Oh, the beds float. What a nice detail. Zelda just making beds, having fun, sleeping. Wonderful. That's the simplicity. The simplicity you expect out of a Nintendo game. I'm ignoring Silver Bishop's terrible comment of saying Nintendo's overrated in his opinion. I love there's only love for Nintendo here. Good old Nintendo. So this first-party games rely on sales and are still fully priced years later. Selling an overpriced OLED console just for better handled screen and Ethernet port. Putting their older games Prime subscription with no option to buy them outright. Yep, good old Nintendo. And this idea that first-party games rarely go on sale and still fully priced, I personally think is a good thing. I'm sick of video games. If you're a super fan of the series, you want to get it right away. You want to support your developer. Awesome. You pay the sort of $70, the $60, whatever a new game is now. And then 1 year later, the stuff's half off. half off, and like, why are you punishing the people that your biggest supporters for buying the game at launch? Now if they waited a year, they could have gotten it half off. They could have saved themselves money. They could have gotten a cheaper game. Yet, so often these companies will like say, "Hey, buy this. Here, pay $30 for early access to our game. We'll get it. We'll milk these guys for everything we got, that can't wait or don't want to wait, that really want to play our game right away." And then we immediately, the second sales slow down or flatline, boom, it's on sale. Hey, you guys that wanted it, that didn't really like it, but maybe wanted to try it, here you go. Here, it's a $40 game now. So the fact that they say, hey, this is a $60 game, and we will charge $60 for it for a long time. Thank you, John Walker. Good to know. Thank you for the sub. The fact that they charge $60 at the beginning, they keep it $60, saying, hey, this game is worth $60. And when I see stuff like Star Wars Outlaws, we're like, hey, you can get it for $18 as part of the subscription. Like, is the game worth, $120 at the top tier, or is it worth $18, like $20? This is a total difference. 6 times the amount, or 6, whatever. Anyway, the games need to have some sort of set value. Like, what is it worth? And so often, I think that a software, especially, not that I don't mind getting games like half off, Monster Hunter, World, they want to sell, they want to sell the expansion, so they price the original down so you can hop in. It's a less, less money. It's like an entry point. I get it. And especially for multiplayer games, trying to get your friends to play. It makes it easier if it's free to play or it's on sale. It makes sense. I don't mind buying a good deal, like a game on sale, especially the Steam sales. I do that too. But I do like the fact that I think Nintendo lays out a clear message that, hey, this game is worth that amount. We have a certain pride in the game. We think it's worth that much. So we're going to keep that as a price. I think there was a Miyamoto article from a long time ago where he said that games should just price what they are. If the game's worth $30, and Palworld did that, they said, hey, this is a $30 game. It's not, super great. It's got a lot of issues. So it's $30. And, it was super successful. Helldiver's hey, our game's pretty simple. It's not the world's best graphics. There's not a lot to it in terms of a story or voice acting or any of that stuff. It's a $40 game. Have fun. And it did really well. And you just don't see that from a lot of games now. That I'm trying to think of a third-party game that really felt or a AAA game that felt like it shouldn't be, a $60 game that felt like it shouldn't be $60. Actually, that Visions of Mana, when I played the demo, I didn't think it should be a $60 game. I think it was a $40 game. Not that it was bad in any sense. It's just it didn't have a lot of graphic fidelity. A lot of the sort of mouth work wasn't super good. The animations were a little bit subpar, in my opinion. It just didn't seem like a $60 game. And I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, the developers got canned a day after that game released. But I personally think they should release it at 40 and just kept it at 40. I'm sure at some point the game is going to go on sale, and when it's $30, I'll probably pick it up and play it. But Visions of Mana, they should have done that. They should, if this game's not super AAA, doesn't have the $2 million budget, why not make it priced at a reasonable amount and just keep it there instead of because you just know that you can wait this game out. If you don't buy it during the initial hype, all you got to do is wait a few months and it goes on sale. And that's become a thing. But Nintendo avoids that. Last article, and this is kind of depressing, but you wonder why people do microtransactions. Why these greedy corporations do that? Well, because it works. Diablo 4 has reportedly earned Blizzard 150 million. Holy shit, Eurogamer. 150 million from microtransactions. And it's topped over 1 billion total lifetime revenue. $150 million. If I told you, hey, you want microtransactions? That'll get you like $100 million. Is a company going to say, nah, no, we have morals. Guys, our shareholders expect us to be very moral people and not, let's just throw away $100 million. This is by Vicky Bake from Eurogamer, just showing it off. I mean, 150 million from these microtransactions. And I saw like the armor that they had and like the battle passes. I personally didn't think it was that good. But it's free money. It's the same thing with the early access. $30 for 3 days early access. It's free money. They're not going to throw this away. People will pay it. So next time I see a microtransaction, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, they'll pay it. Like I'm not even gonna get mad at. It's hard to get mad at developers when people will gladly just throw away money on this stuff. Oh yeah, nah, we'll turn down 150 million. Who wants that? Who wants free money for by making a few skins and selling them to people? Who would? But that's all I got for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be redirecting to Post Zero. It's probably going to be a chill stream. It's over on Jack's channel. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining me. And we'll see you again next week. Like I said, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. We'll be trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So I look forward to getting there. And thank you. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you next Sunday for another stream.